In 2016, Samsung had to recall 2.8 million washing machines after the lids blew off during the spin cycle, causing injuries to many customers. In 2019, Whirlpool recalled 519,000 washing machines due to high heat conductivity causing fires. LG and Sears were also sued in a class action for allegedly manufacturing and selling defective washing machines. These scandals make many people wonder, why do modern washing machines deteriorate and break down so quickly? Meanwhile, a few decades ago, a washing machine could run for 20, even 30 years. There are families that buy a washing machine and use it for nearly half their lives. Sounds like technology is regressing, right? But the truth is even more surprising. The problem is not that the companies don't know how to make durable machines. In fact, they absolutely can. The problem is they changed a small design detail inside the washing machine, a change that most buyers never get to hear about. In this video, we will uncover the hidden secrets of the washing machine industry and why new machines seem to be designed to die early. Don't miss out if you don't want to be the next victim. Let's start with a question. When you step into an electronics supermarket, what usually impresses you? In front of you is a long row of washing machines, about 30 different models, each bearing a variety of logos from familiar to high-end. At first glance, it feels like standing in front of a forest of choices. You might think, great, there are so many companies competing with each other. But if you look a little closer, the picture starts to change. And I believe this is something that no salesperson will ever reveal to you. In fact, most of those washing machines do not come from dozens of independent companies as we might think. This market is mainly in the hands of a very small group of large corporations. For example, one conglomerate can own many different brands. Another conglomerate stands behind a series of familiar logos. In other words, what you see in the showroom is like a supermarket with many different box labels. But most of them come from the same kitchen behind. It's like attending a costume party. Each person wears a different costume. Some are knights, some are astronauts, some are detectives. But when you take off the masks, you discover they all come from the same small group. The washing machine market sometimes gives a similar feeling. Different logos, different colors, different designs. But inside, many products are developed according to quite similar technical philosophies. This explains why many users have a similar experience, switching to another brand. But the problem remains the same, a newer and more modern machine. But the lifespan is not as long as expected. Does it sound familiar? If you've ever encountered a situation like this, please share in the comments. How long did your washing machine last before it started having issues? Real-life stories like these are often very interesting, and sometimes reveal even more than the advertisements. And if you enjoy content that dissects behind the scenes like this, you might consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Because when we understand the big picture of the market, we start to ask more important questions. What is really happening inside modern washing machines, causing them to have shorter lifespans than before? And the answer starts from an extremely small component, but it determines the fate of the entire machine. Let's continue to see what that component is. Okay, now we will talk about a very small detail, but extremely important, inside the washing machine. That's the bearing of the washing drum. Sounds not too impressive, right? Actually, the bearing is just a component that helps the washing drum spin smoothly when the machine is on high spin speed. It's like the bearing of a bicycle wheel. Small, simple, but if it breaks, everything starts creaking immediately. And the interesting thing is, this component itself usually costs only about $15. In the past, when the bearings wore out, which is completely normal after many years of use, the repairman would just open the washing drum, replace the bearings, reassemble it, and the machine could run for another decade. The total repair cost was usually only around $50. Sounds like fixing a bicycle. Replacing the bearings, pumping in some grease, and then continuing to run smoothly. But then a design change quietly appeared in many modern washing machine models. Instead of the washing drum being assembled with bolts and removable, many new designs are welded into a sealed unit. Imagine two halves of a plastic shell bonded together at the molecular level, like two pieces of plastic melted and pressed into a single unit. What is the result? When that 5 bearing wears out, which is almost certain to happen after years of spinning at thousands of revolutions per minute, replacing just that component becomes very difficult to do. In many cases, the proposed solution is to replace the entire washing drum assembly, and this component can cost anywhere from a few $100s to nearly the price of a new machine. A small component the size of a cookie, but it can lead to a repair bill equivalent to that of a high-end phone. Do you find this reasonable, or have you ever encountered a similar situation with your washing machine? Please share your experience in the comments because real-life stories are often very interesting for comparison. And if you think the bearings are the biggest issue, then the next part is even more interesting. Because inside many modern washing machines, there is another component even more prone to issues that quietly determines the lifespan of the entire machine. Do you have any idea what that part is? Don't take your eyes off it. It will appear right now. So what really happens inside the washing machine when that small component starts to deteriorate? Imagine it like a domino effect. When the first domino falls, the next ones are almost certain to follow. And in the washing machine, that process usually unfolds in a 4-step sequence very familiar to repair technicians. Step 1. The rubber seal begins to wear. Outside the bearing, there is always a small rubber seal. Its task is like that of an umbrella, to prevent water, detergent, and steam from getting inside. But think about the environment that umbrella has to work in. Spinning hundreds to thousands of times per minute, constantly exposed to water and detergents, enduring temperature changes with every wash. After a few years, the seal starts to wear down gradually. Not immediately, but gradually, like a tire wearing down bit by bit. Step 2. Water begins to seep into the bearings. When the protective layer weakens, water and detergents can seep inside, and the first thing to be affected is the lubricating grease. Imagine riding a bicycle without any lubricant on the wheel axle. Metal starts rubbing against metal, no longer smooth. In the washing machine, it's the same. Step 3. Noise appears. At this point, you will start to hear a familiar sound. Initially, it's a soft rumble when spinning, and then the sound gets louder. Some people describe it as sounding like a plane getting ready to take off in the laundry room. If you've ever heard that sound, please share in the comments how long it took to appear after use. Final step. The washing drum starts to wobble. When the bearings are heavily worn, the drum no longer spins steadily. It starts to shake lightly, then vibrates more strongly, like a wheel out of alignment. At this point, smooth operation is almost non-existent, and this is when many people realize that their washing machine is nearing the end of its lifespan. The interesting thing is that this series of malfunctions doesn't happen in a day. It unfolded step by step, like a story that had been pre-written. But if you think the bearings are the only weakness of modern washing machines, then the next part is even more noteworthy. Because there is another component inside the washing drum, not many people know about it, but it plays the role of the skeleton of the entire spinning system. And that very component is sometimes the determining factor for the actual lifespan of the machine. If you enjoy videos that decode the insides of household appliances, you can subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes. We are about to touch on a detail that many people have never heard of, but it directly affects the washing machine in your home. If the bearing is the beating heart of the washing machine, then there is another component that can be considered the skeletal framework of the entire spinning system. That part has a rather interesting name, spider arm, which can be understood as a spider arm. It sounds a bit scary, but in reality, it's just a 3-pronged metal frame located behind the drum, connecting the drum to the motor's spinning shaft. When the washing machine spins at high speed, this component keeps the drum rotating stably like a wheel running on a straight road. But here, a very noteworthy technical detail begins to emerge. In many modern designs, the wash drum is made of stainless steel, while the spider arm is often made of cast aluminum. It doesn't seem like a problem until these two different metals have to work together in an environment: water, detergent, and continuous humidity. This is the ideal condition for a chemical phenomenon called electrochemical corrosion. To make it easier to visualize, imagine two types of metal, like two small batteries, placed next to each other in a humid environment. Over time, one of the metals will be gradually sacrificed. And in this case, the affected part is usually the aluminum frame of the spider arm. The interesting thing is that this process does not happen noisily. It happens quietly from within, like a bridge gradually rusting at its joints. At first, you hardly notice anything. But over time, the metal frame can weaken, leading to familiar phenomena such as banging noises during the spin cycle, a shaking drum, or unbalanced movement. Some engineers believe that a simple protective coating, costing only a few cents per product, could significantly slow down this process. So, in your opinion, why do many designs still choose such a structure? This is quite an interesting question that the home appliance repair community often debates a lot. If you've ever heard of or encountered a similar situation, please share your thoughts in the comments. And if you find such technical secrets interesting, you can subscribe to the channel to follow the next videos. Because when we piece together all the components from bearings, rubber seals to the spider arm, we begin to see a bigger picture of how modern devices are designed and used. And in the next section, that picture will become clearer as we look at the overall trends in the washing machine industry over the past few decades. When we piece together all the components from bearings, rubber seals to spider arms, we begin to see a bigger picture. And that picture can be summed up in one phrase: the era of disposable devices. If we turn back the clock a few decades, the average lifespan of a washing machine was around 19 years. That means nearly 2 decades, long enough for a child to go from first grade to finishing university. But recent studies show that number has dropped to below 11 years. In other words, the lifespan of washing machines has nearly halved. A survey in Europe also showed that about 40% of users have to replace their machines after just 6 years of use. If we compare it for easier understanding, it's similar to the cycle of replacing a mobile phone. And this is the point that makes many people feel confused. Washing machines today have smart sensors, electronic control panels, and automatic washing programs. The technology is clearly more advanced than ever. However, the lifespan has not increased. Therefore, many people are starting to ask a rather straightforward question: is the problem with the technology? Or with the design philosophy? There is a quite famous saying in the home appliance repair community: the industry hasn't failed to create durable machines. They simply succeeded in creating machines that are easier to replace. It sounds a bit ironic, but if we look at design trends, many people believe this statement is not entirely unreasonable. In reality, when the cost of repairing a minor defect is nearly equal to the price of buying a new machine, consumers often choose the familiar option, buying the next machine, and the cycle continues. What do you think about this? How long has your washing machine been in use before it started showing signs of trouble? Please share your experience in the comments. Real-life stories are always interesting to compare. If you enjoy videos that decode how devices work behind the scenes, you can subscribe to the channel to follow the upcoming episodes. Because in the final part of this video, we will talk about the most important thing: are there washing machines still designed to last for many years, and how can we recognize them before buying? At this point, many people might wonder, so do all modern washing machines break down quickly? The answer is not necessarily. In fact, there are still washing machines designed with a completely different philosophy, prioritizing durability and repairability, rather than just focusing on the initial purchase price. A commonly mentioned example in the repair community is Speed Queen. The special feature of this line of machines is that it is built on the foundation of industrial washing machines, the type of machines you often see in self-service laundromats. That means many internal components are designed to withstand thousands of cycles of operation. Some tests show that these models can reach around 10,000 wash cycles. If your family does laundry about 8 times a week, that number is equivalent to more than 20 years of use. In other words, the machine can accompany you from the time you buy your first house to when you replace your sofa for the 3rd time. Another option often mentioned is Miele, a European brand renowned for its long-lasting design philosophy. Many of the company's models are tested for about 10,000 hours of operation and use stainless steel drums along with individually replaceable components. That doesn't mean they are absolutely perfect, but the design philosophy still places a high value on long-term durability. Additionally, Some repair technicians also mention older washing machine platforms, for example, the earlier direct drive models from Whirlpool. These designs have a fairly simple mechanical structure, fewer moving parts, and therefore are easier to maintain. The interesting point here is, durable washing machines have not disappeared. They still exist on the market. But to find them, sometimes you have to buy in a way different from what advertisements usually suggest. Instead of just looking at the touch panel or the number of washing programs, many people are starting to pay more attention to questions like, is the washing drum removable? Can the components be replaced individually? How many cycles is the machine designed for? Which factor do you think is the most important when choosing a washing machine? Modern features or long-lasting durability? Please share your opinion in the comments. I'm very curious to see what everyone prioritizes. And in the final part of the video, we will revisit an interesting question. Why were the washing machines of previous generations able to operate so reliably? If we look back at the whole story, there is quite an interesting detail. Our grandparents' washing machines could run for 20, even 30 years. Not because the technology back then was more miraculous, and it's not because users back then were gentler with their laundry. The reason is much simpler. Those machines are designed with a very different philosophy. They can be opened, repaired, and then closed again. Like a bicycle or a motorcycle, when a small part wears out, you just need to replace that specific part. The machine continues to operate for many more years. Nowadays, the design has changed in many different directions. Some models prioritize comfort and new features, while others maintain a philosophy of durability and ease of maintenance. And that's why researching thoroughly before buying has become more important than ever. I'm very curious to hear your story. How long has the washing machine in your house been in use? And have you ever encountered a situation where the repair wasn't worth the money, as many people have shared? Please leave a comment below for everyone to discuss. Real-life experiences can sometimes help others avoid an expensive decision. If you find this video useful and enjoy content that decodes how devices work behind the scenes, you can subscribe to the channel to follow more similar videos in the future. And a small note. This video aims to share information and a comprehensive perspective from research sources, repair data, and user experiences. The actual experience may vary depending on usage, operating conditions, and each specific device model. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next video.